Welcome to today's reading. We are looking at your purpose, some of the reasons why you are here in this life, and also what could help you feel more purposeful or more fulfilled. So, let me show you each of your options now. For group 1, we have lepidolite, and we are using the Tarot of Tides. For group 2, we have this clear quartz with inclusions, and we are using the Skeleton Tarot. For group 3, we have chrysocolla, and we are using the Kawaii Tarot. Okay, take your time if you need it. If the first group you choose does not sound quite right, do not be afraid to try another. Meet me in your reading when you're ready. Hi, group 1. You chose the lepidolite and the Tarot of Tides. Welcome to your reading. Today's reading focuses on your purpose. And I don't think that most of us here are just here for one singular purpose, but we are focusing on at least part of your purpose here in this life. If this doesn't sound at all like you, feel free to choose another group, but we are going to start with what is coming through as your purpose, and then we will look at how that purpose impacts your relationships or other people, how that purpose applies to your work life or your hobbies, and how you can feel more purposeful and fulfilled in your day-to-day. So, can we talk about group 1's purpose or part of their purpose here in this life? That's too many cards. Group 1's purpose. The 3 of Cups. The 2 of Swords. The Empress. And we have the Knight of Wands. Okay. Well, I'm going to place a bet that you guys are pretty fun. And this is kind of different energy than I expected, maybe with these colors, the purples, and this deck in particular. So I don't know. I guess maybe I expected something a little bit more mystical or something. And that's not to mean that you are not, because you may very well be that way. But to start off, we have this really kind of like powerful, fiery, decisive, fun, celebratory, like you seem like the kind of person that can make people laugh, that brings people together, that gets invited to things. And obviously this is some part of your purpose here. If you're not relating to that at all, this may not be your group, but let's see what we've got. So we've got this really strong feminine energy. The one major arcana that we have so far in our pull is the Empress, which is like the divine feminine. It is the feminine. Doesn't mean you're a woman or that you identify as a woman, but that there is this really strong feminine energy with you, and not that you present in a feminine way, but it's these masculine and feminine energies that we all have, but there's something about your feminine energy that is very powerful. And this is a really interesting Empress card. We have this kind of like queen bee, and it's kind of giving like killer bee vibes, and it feels like this bee is protecting its hive, not even just protecting its hive, but like, this isn't just protection or defense, but it's actively being like, don't mess with us. It almost feels like you have this energy of kind of coming after people who mess with you, mess with your pack, mess with what you care about. Or you may even be someone who really defends the underdog, or you're very protective, or you could be defensive, certainly, but certainly you could also be somebody who likes a little bit of a fight. You might like to debate or argue a little bit. That's not necessarily the case, but there's a little bit of that here, and a feeling of maybe feeling like you know what's right, or you will stand up for what you feel is right, and you will stand up for what feels authentic to you, what feels truthful to you, and what feels important to you. And you don't just stand up for yourself. There's this kind of protective parental energy going on here, and you could be a parent. You could be like the mom friend or the dad friend, or somebody that people go to. And I think that you have very, very strong protective energy. You could be any sign, but there is a fiery energy showing up here. So you certainly could be a fire sign or have strong fire in your astrology chart. And there's an action-oriented vibe here with the Knight of Wands. And so, the wands are fire, but the knight is also action. And the Knight of Wands takes quick action and decisive action and passionate action. The Knight of Wands can really act from a place of inspiration and fire and passion and creativity. And so I think that one thing that is true about you is that you do take actions from a place of passion, maybe even anger, a place of feeling like strong feelings, I would say, where you feel led, where your power takes you. There's definitely a powerful aspect to you. And this seems to be a big part of your purpose here, is to I just heard something fall outside, but I think it's because we have a storm going on. I just got spooked for a second. So part of what you're here to do, and part of who you're here to be, is someone that is protective, that looks after people that need someone to look after them. That you're here to live passionately, creatively, to create things and nurture things and move toward the projects that make you feel passionate, that light you up. If you're someone who changes jobs a lot, this may be part of and maybe you think that's not a good thing. It actually seems like it's just like you move on when you're done with something. You move towards something when you want to move towards something. And this is important to how you wanted to live in this life, and the impact that you leave, and the way that you inspire other people, and you show other people what it's okay to do, and ways in which you stand up for yourself and you stand up for other people. There's something very not only protective, but very inspiring and motivating about your energy, and you serve as an example for other people. And we are going to get into more about how that your purpose sort of impacts other people, but it's already showing up here. And I think that you may have a little bit of maybe an angry side, or like you take action based on the things that kind of piss you off. I think, this certainly this could go in shadow ways where maybe you're too quick to anger, or you direct your anger in the wrong places. But I think that it's coming through as purposeful for you, because you're meant to be led by what lights you up, what makes you passionate, what fuels your fire. And so, other people may not always like the fact that you can be maybe hot-headed is how they might see it. But in some ways, this is part of why you're here. And, with the Three of Cups as well, this is often a card of celebration with other people, but it's also like a card of having fun, of lighting up the room, of connecting other people. And it feels like that is something that's very important to you. And so this Two of Swords in the middle of these kind of two energies here makes me think of this balance of kind of your righteous anger, the actions you take, the way that you live, the way that you move, the way that you feel. And then also this energy of connecting people and bringing people together and laughing together and having a lot of heart and having a lot of sweet emotion for other people. It's not that they're totally different, but there's this sort of balance where sometimes you might feel very kind of hot and heated up and wanting to take action and wanting to do things. And then other times you are kind of just there for connection and love and laughter and joy. And those things sometimes can be combined and sometimes they're very separate. But I think that ultimately one of your goals may be about connection and bringing people together and feeling love for other people and feeling love from other people and celebrating life with other people and having community and having connection and having true friendships or a feeling of family with other people. So there's this kind of like a breaking down and coming together energy that you seem to have where it's not about you destroying things. And maybe there's some of that, like maybe you have a job where you demolish the systems that don't work in order to build something new or something like that. But I think that you don't stand for people's bullshit. And if it stands in the way of the things that you believe in, like, if someone is trying to limit other people's creativity or someone is at your company is making decisions that are going to harm people or, I don't know, it could be so many things, but you're kind of like, hold on, I'm not going to let this fly. I feel like you have a very strong voice and you're not afraid to use it. And even if you might still have anxiety at times, you may act before you even think because of your values or what feels important to you, or just kind of what it feels like sometimes you may even be kind of like impulsive because you can't even help it. And I think sometimes one of the things that you might be meant to learn in this lifetime, like, part of this seems to be purposeful for you, but part of what you might be learning is like, kind of stepping back and not being so impulsive, because I think that, and maybe this is something you've already learned or you're already kind of working on, but I think for some of you, there's a feeling that if you don't do everything impulsively, and I'm not saying you do everything impulsively, but if you hold yourself back a little bit more, you can get a little bit more clarity about the actions that are going to truly get you where you want to go. And, if you're protective and supportive of other people, you could potentially sometimes be causing more damage by impulsively trying to protect someone rather than maybe taking a moment and thinking it through. And I'm not saying that's the case for all of you, but I think for some of you, there's this learning to hold back a little bit until things are a little bit more clear or until you can kind of cool down a little bit, because there's a hot thing that happens with you where it's like instantly, it's like you turn an oven on and normally you preheat the oven because it takes a while to warm up to the temperature you need to bake something. But it's like your oven, as soon as someone turns the dial a little bit, it goes up to 500 degrees and it's instantly 500 degrees. And so there's kind of something in there where there's like a mechanism in you, the oven, to kind of slow that down and temper it a little bit in order to see clearly what's going to be more effective for you or more efficient or more effective for whoever it is you're trying to help or you're trying to protect. I think that, you have sort of a strong personality, I guess, but, there's a lot of strength to your energy, a lot of power, I guess I would say, a lot of power that you have in your energy. And so this is powerful. And I think that part part of what you're here to do is to be powerful and also learn to direct that power in meaningful ways that are most helpful to you and other people and in the directions you want to go. And, I keep talking about you being protective of other people, but it could be protective of something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family or your friends or a community or something like that. But I think for a lot of people, a lot of you, it is. And there is some transformation energy. We have a snake showing up in this Two of Swords, and it feels like there's some leaning away from like kind of the hot-headedness and the storminess and moving more toward kind of collaborative efforts of like, I think sometimes you may be the type of person who will lead a group. Maybe that's even like in a friend group and you're always the one that decides where you go and what to do and you organize it, or you are in a leadership position at work, or you are a parent or something like that. And I think that there are positives for this, but sometimes I think for a few of you, I think maybe you find the power getting to your head a little bit, or you get kind of locked into like a way of doing things instead of maybe adapting. Like it's like, like this thing protected this person in the past, and so I'm going to keep doing it, but things have changed. And so it's better if it's going to be more beneficial to you if you adapt. So there's some kind of like learning to adapt and learning to shift into more collaborative energy where even if you are excellent at leading, even if you are so powerful, when you combine that with other people who are also good at those things, or other people that have different aspects to being able to help or change things or whatever it is that you're trying to do or that's important to you in life, I think that you're going to find that the more that you connect with other people who also have these goals in mind, but may have different skills or talents or ways of being than you are, you're going to affect a lot more change, and you're going to see more of what you want to happen, and you're going to feel ultimately, I think, more fulfilled rather than kind of powering through, because I think that you have this natural ability to like push through, to make things happen, to take action, to it's very kind of Aries energy or like firstborn energy, or very confident energy. And I think that this is part of why you're here, is because the world and your communities need this energy, and yet you're also learning some kind of like nuance and taking a step back and these kinds of things. So let's see a little bit more about how your purpose here impacts your relationships or other people. The Six of Pentacles. The Chariot. The Ace of Cups. And we have the Moon. No matter how I try to keep these, I know it probably drives some people crazy to not have these be like, they're always like tilted at the bottom, but it's partly because of the way the camera's angled, but it drives me crazy sometimes when I'm editing. I'm like, oh, I wish I had checked that. So how does your purpose impact your relationships or other people? Well, we see really positive things right off the bat. And we have 2 majors, 2 minors. So in major and minor ways, you definitely have an impact on other people. And your reason for being here definitely does. So you can see your generosity shining through here, especially with the Six of Pentacles. Again, I really feel strongly that many of you are in service to other people, or you care about the underdog, or you really want to see the world become a better place and people have the things that they need. I think you really care about other people, whether that is a small community like your close people or, the entire world. You're someone that has a desire to see people thrive and to see equality and to see things move forward in a positive way. And I think because you have such a enterprising spirit and a kind of a go-getter feeling about many of you, and also this kind of desire to connect with other people, we see this Ace of Cups, this ability to begin relationships, start new relationships and friendships and connections with people that are meaningful for both you and them. And even if this is starting relationships in business, there's still a component of it where there's a sense of love, a sense of compassion and feeling cared about, and that the people that you spark something with in life, I think, are often very grateful for that. And you seem to see a lot of potential in relationships to other people, and that it may be very easy for some of you to make friends or make connections. People may tend to like you, although I think for some of you, you have some people that really do not like you. But I think more often than not, people want to know you, want to be connected to you. And I think that your compassion and your care for other people or your projects and things is very clear to a lot of other people. We see a lot of protective energy again in this Chariot, which is unusual. Typically in the Chariot card, we see someone in a chariot moving forward and we see two figures helping them move forward. But let me show you this. In this Chariot card, we have these two figures here kind of circling around and seemingly protecting some kind of nest here, protecting something that matters to them. And this is what drives them. This is what moves them forward. And that they're not necessarily moving in a straight line or moving up. They're kind of moving around what matters to them. And so I think that you care less about climbing a corporate ladder or getting to the top of something unless it furthers your goals in relation to your values. So you may have a goal of making a lot of money, but you may also have a value around people having their needs met in life, like basic human rights. And so if that's the case, one of your goals could be related to that, and it doesn't necessarily lead you to the top of the corporate ladder or whatever. I hope that's making sense and I'm explaining that okay. So basically, what drives you and motivates you definitely seems to be in relation to other people and wanting to live in a better world. And I think that there are other aspects to that too. Like you also want to have fun. You want to enjoy life. You want to have happy relationships and things like that. And so, but the way that you move, the things that you move towards, the goals that you have, the values that you have, the way that this impacts your relationships and other people is that you make a lot of people feel safe, feel cared for, feel looked after. You make people feel excited. And I think that you also inspire other people to care. Maybe it's about the same causes or things that you care about, and maybe it's finding their own. And so I think a big reason that you're here in this life, not just to experience life and to have fun, because I think that's a lot of it, but I think that you're also here to put your hands in the collective efforts to change what's going on in our world and in our societies and in the way that we treat and respect other people, and in the ways that bring us into a more peaceful and loving and supportive collective and world. And so I think that your soul has a strong mission to contribute in the ways that you can. And it's so interesting because I'm starting to feel emotion well up. So I think for some of you, you feel very strongly that that's why you're here. That's why you chose to be here. Like, you're going to have fun while you're here. You're going to have a good time and try out life and like again and do all the things you do and be yourself. And you're also here to help. I think that's a really strong focus for many of you, and that you're very aware of that, and that you're here to help change the paradigm and change how we've been living. And that's a beautiful way that you also impact other people, because people feel that energy. And I kind of feel like you have very little patience for certain types of individuals, or very little patience for certain personalities and things like that, like people that you think contribute negatively to the whole, or to communities that you're in, or people who try to stand in your way or antagonize you. But I don't think you're afraid of that at all. I think you will run head on potentially toward conflict, or you're not afraid to stand up for what you believe is right. And I think that for some of you, there can be a little bit of, again, there's this kind of feeling of like rapidly reaching impatience and that this can also sometimes affect your relationships and affect other people, because people might think that you're mad at them a lot. Maybe you are mad at them a lot. I think that you can elicit anxiety sometimes in people. And I don't think that's necessarily the case for all of you. And I also don't think that you need to be like, oh God, like, oh no. I think it's the reason it's showing up here for those of you that it's true for is because, again, there's some kind of lesson here around learning to temper and calm down and before reacting or before taking action, because I think that sometimes it does have a negative impact, and what it does is pulls you away from what you're truly trying to accomplish. And sometimes I think that some of you might act from a reactive place rather than a grounded place, and from a place of not being able to see clearly, but thinking that you do. But overall, I would say most of the time and most of how you contribute to other people's lives is in a really positive and beautiful way. And I think that you start new things and you take action in this world. And, you know, I wonder if sometimes you get a little upset by people you feel don't take enough action. But I think that for those of you that that's the case for, there may just be a reminder that we all play our part, and it may not look the same, and that's okay. Because again, you know, we all contribute somehow. And so if everyone contributed in the same way you did, there wouldn't be, it'd be missing something, you know? And it's not that you're missing something, but rather you're a puzzle piece. I'm a puzzle piece. Everybody is. So when we all come together, we make a beautiful puzzle, you know, or I'm a thread and you're a thread and someone else is a thread, and together it makes a beautiful tapestry. So let's find out, my sweet group 1, how your purpose, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe how your purpose adds to your work life or your hobbies or your day to day. Okay, so group 1. The 5 of Wands. The King of Swords. And then we have the 3 of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. Okay. I think for some of you, again, I get this feeling that some of you do a lot of, like, you bounce from job to job or even hobby to hobby or something like that. And if that's the case for you, there is a message here where, again, that's totally fine, and that you don't necessarily have to have some major 30-year career at the same place doing the same thing. That maybe that's not really for you, unless you find something where it's like, oh, I would love to settle down into this. But yeah, there's just a message here for some of you about that. But there's a really kind of changeable feeling about your energy. And so I think that you are adaptable in a lot of ways, and that you can adapt to a new environment, and that you have something very authentic about yourself that always sort of shines through. And in some way you come across as very confident and unafraid. And even if you have anxiety, I think that you would know in this case, if this is your group, and you would know that people do perceive you as being very confident, even if you don't always feel very confident. So I think that some of you could be really good at planning. You may be a really good planner. You may be very organized. You may be able to kind of put the pieces together and see how something is going to work out. I think that people often appreciate your perspective, and sometimes you really are able to see the big picture and then fine tune the details because you have some ability to perceive the whole. And I think that you're unafraid to put your hat in the ring. You're unafraid to put your opinion out there. Again, I have this feeling that you're really unafraid to speak what you feel is the truth and your truth, and that you're going to stand by it, and you're going to very clearly relay what you are thinking and what you're feeling. And I think that you might have a really hard time hiding how you feel, and that some of you may have a really hard time lying or being dishonest, or even if you want to lie in a situation, it may not come across as very believable because everything's written on your face. It's like too obvious anyway. I do again pick up on you maybe being prone to irritation. And I think it's so interesting because a lot of times when I get this in readings where someone is like irritated, I will feel it first. And I find that so irritating because it makes it harder to do the reading, but I don't even feel it. I just keep noticing it. And so it makes me wonder if you run really hot and then it just dissolves. Like you don't get mad and stay mad for a week. You might get mad for a couple of days or something, but in general, you get mad and then you come back down, or you feel this and then you come back down. So I feel like your big feelings could sometimes either be fleeting or they dissolve relatively quickly. And so again, I think that for some of you, it is beneficial to kind of slow down and take a minute, because if you get very rageful about something, for example, and maybe it's not that severe for you, but if you didn't react from that place, instead you cooled down, the emotion would dissolve for you. It wouldn't stay as intense or as heavy. And then you could more clearly be like, okay, now I can see the big picture. Where do I want to go? And I think that this really applies to your work life and your day to day, because I think people really rely on you for planning or organizing or leading, telling the truth, being very clear, not hiding things, not being afraid to be in conflict or an argument, and still want to, do things for the greater good and for the whole, but without people pleasing or just saying, oh yeah, you're right. You want to see things. You have kind of like this ability to see a positive end goal. And I think that oftentimes other people do not agree with you. And I think that oftentimes people see you as argumentative, and that might be the case sometimes. But I think that sometimes you're trying to get your point across, or you're trying to be clear, or you're trying to point people in the right direction because there's a better way to go. Or, if this is at work, it's because you care about other human beings, whereas maybe you are working with people who care about money, you know what I mean? Or care about profit. And so you're constantly kind of fighting for what's right. And I think that sometimes you literally are fighting with people at work. And But you won't give up without a fight. You're gonna stand strong, and you're not gonna let somebody confuse you or change your course unless you truly believe that there is a better way. And you could be very, very detail oriented, and this could really show up in your work and in your hobbies. And I think that's very obvious that you care. And so I think in a lot of ways, you're very loved for this. And some people really don't like you for disagreeing with them, for not going with the flow, for not doing things the quote unquote corporate way. You know what I mean? And so I like you, but I could see where someone else might not because they care about the wrong things. So let's look and see, is there anything that would make you feel more purposeful and more fulfilled than you already are? We have the Knight of Pentacles. The Six of Wands. Oh no, that's too many. The Queen of Swords. We've got the King and Queen of Swords, Page and Knight of Pentacles. And then the other cards are Wands. And then we had one fall on the floor, and it's the Eight of Pentacles. Okay, so how can you feel more purposeful and fulfilled, and what other guidance or advice might be here for you? Well, we do have energy that in some ways does encourage you, again, to sort of slow down. So earlier we had the Knight of Wands, and now we have the Knight of Pentacles. And so these are both cards of taking action and continuing to move forward. And yet the Pentacles moves more slowly. So again, I keep getting this message for some of you around slowing down, taking a beat before taking action, and taking a minute to consider, especially if you do find yourself being somewhat impulsive or reactive. And that ultimately, this is going to be more aligned with fulfilling your purpose here in life. And, I kind of believe that, like, whether we come here with a mission or a purpose or not, we're ultimately going to do whatever we do and we're going to get something out of it, right? So I don't think that you can live life wrong, although I strongly disagree with the way some people do choose to live their lives. But I think that, this feels like kind of a message from your spirit guides or a message from your higher self for those of you who are, find yourselves being reactive or impulsive. What lights you up and what makes you want to take action. This is all good. This is positive. This is part of like how you live life. And yet you're advised to kind of take a beat a little bit more, slow down a little bit more, because it helps you actually further your goals and find yourself more victorious in what you've come here to do and feeling more satisfied with the actions you take, with the results that you get, with the relationships that you form, all of it. And that, it's funny because, the message I got when I looked at this card was like, be more Capricorn. And it made me laugh because I was thinking about, I'm a Capricorn sun. One of my sisters is very fiery, and both my sisters are fire signs actually, but one of my sisters is an Aries. And, Aries can sometimes be impulsive or reactive. Obviously not every single Aries out there. And so it made me laugh that like the initial message I got was like, be more Capricorn, because I feel like she would have something to say to that. Like, I think she would joke about it, but I think she would be maybe annoyed by that. But, we all have things to learn from each other, right? Like, I have a lot of earth and water in my chart, and I could certainly learn from people who have a lot of fire and air. You know what I mean? I mean, I have some fire, but anyway. So I think that this also talks about kind of just step by step putting in the effort toward the things that you want to accomplish, like continuing to move toward the goals that you have, whether these are like goals for the human race or the world, or goals to have a certain amount of money, or goals to feel a certain way at work, or whatever it is that you desire and that you want in life, slowly continuing to put in the effort and taking steps forward. Again, Knight of Pentacles, slowly taking steps to move forward is going to help you to get to where you want to go. If there's something that you've been wanting to accomplish, you are on the way. And that, it's okay to move quickly. It's not that you can't move quickly or you can't be decisive. You can. But I think I just keep thinking for some of you, take a beat, just take a beat before you make a decision. But I think that your decisiveness and your ability to see clearly, and your ability to be so tuned into your own truth and what you truly want and what is right and what's not right, this is a really powerful thing that you bring into this world and into your life and other people's. The Six of Wands reminds me of the Six of Swords too. And that, again, there's this kind of movement energy of you moving from this to that. And like we have these butterflies that show up in the Queen of Swords. And because I was getting a little vision of like a butterfly being like, and now I'm over here and now I'm going to go over here. And you're like flitting around, and you might be a social butterfly, but there's something about the movement. You don't stand still. You don't just stay in one place forever. And that's a good thing. Okay. You are meant to stay in motion. You are meant to leave behind the things that don't serve you, the things that don't feel right, the things that have kind of grown cold, and move toward the things that light you up and feel exciting and draw you in. You don't ever need to stay in one place unless it makes you happy. And so I think for some of you who've been beating yourself up about that, it's time to let that go, because part of what you're doing in this life is moving. And for those of you who wonder if that's the right thing to do, it is. And I think that there's this kind of balance of fast and slow, of movement and taking a moment. And it feels like there's a message here around doing things that ground your energy and kind of calm you down, because that's where you're going to be the most effective and you're going to accomplish the most. Because from a grounded place and from a place of clarity, you can move forward and be victorious in anything. I feel like you could accomplish anything that you set your mind to, and that ultimately in this life, you are bringing joy, you are stirring things up, you are helping to unleash a powerful force on this earth that will be helpful to more than just yourself, more than the people who are close to you. And that ultimately, I think that you will be a beacon of inspiration and light for many, many people. And it makes me feel emotional again. So, thank you for bringing your beautiful, incredible energy into this world for us all to experience. And thank you so much for spending time with me today. It was such a pleasure to be with you and your energy. And if you enjoyed this reading or you found it true or helpful, please let me know by liking the video, leave a comment if you're up for it, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Clear Quartz and the Skeleton Tarot. Welcome to your reading today. So we are focusing on your purpose in this life. And I do think that it's not usually so simple as having one purpose, but we will talk about part of your purpose and how that purpose also impacts your relationships and other people, and how it adds to your work life or your hobbies, and how you can feel more purposeful and fulfilled day to day. Okay, so if you are listening to this and this does not sound like you and it doesn't resonate, try Group 1 or Group 3. Okay, so for Group 2, let's talk about their purpose. The Empress. The Six of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. And we have the Queen of Swords. I think we had the Empress in the first. Yeah, we definitely did. We had the Empress at the beginning of group 1 as well, but very different Empress energy. So, I talked about kind of like fierce feminine energy, like regardless of gender in the first group. And then we're showing up here again in group 2 with very strong feminine energy. Does not mean you have to be a woman, you identify as a woman, or you identify as feminine in any way. But you could also be very feminine. But there's a nurturing quality coming through here, and a very compassionate and caring feeling with you. While also feeling, I think at times, that you feel too sensitive, or you may feel taken advantage of. I'm trying to, we'll get to the purpose, but it just feels right away like, I wonder if we talk about like past lives and having many lives, if some of you have had lives lived as women that were difficult, challenging, where you were taken advantage of, or these kinds of things, and maybe your lives as men were at times a little bit easier, or you were more respected or something like that. Obviously, that doesn't have to be the case for everyone, but that seems to be the case for someone here. And it's almost like if you are in, you are a woman in this life, or you were born into a body with female parts, that may be hard in some ways, or you may feel like you end up in situations where you do feel taken advantage of, regardless of what your body or your gender is. But it seems to me that especially if you are a woman, or you are living life as a woman, or you are living life as a trans person or a non-binary person. And this isn't to exclude men, because we'll see, but there's just something here for everyone else that's here, where it might be part of your purpose in this life is to live in a body and live in a role where you do have more power, and you do feel more safe, and you do get to make more of your own decisions and have more independence, and kind of go your own way. And certainly this could still be the energy too if you are a cis man, where you could still have kind of, you may have kind of stronger feminine traits, or people tend to take advantage of you. You tend to be an empathetic or compassionate soul, but because it kind of seems like you've had some whoever you are, you've had some struggle around this at times, where you do feel sensitive, you do feel compassionate, you really care about other people, you're very loving, and yet sometimes it feels like you are taken advantage of, or you're not seen clearly, or people do not see you for the powerful, wise, intelligent, incredible person that you are. Not that everyone sees you incorrectly, but that some people have, or some people have tried to make you feel less than you are. And that part of what you're doing here in this life as you now is regaining your sense of power, authority, clarity, truth, ability to create and make things happen and build a beautiful life and go in the directions that you want to go, and basically block out the noise that negatively affects you in order to more clearly see and move toward the life that you want and live the life that you want and create the life that you want. You are coming through as someone with a great deal of power, but the way that your power shows up, because I saw power in the last group too, and this is very different. And I really think if you're in this group, you have a strong empathy, strong sensitivity, and strong compassion and care. Yeah, you really care. And I think that some of you, I think oftentimes you feel very responsible for you. I think a lot of you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, and I'm feeling some emotions coming to the surface for you guys. I think that it's become very hard for you to see other people hurt. It's very hard for you to feel like you've hurt other people. I think sometimes you feel a lot of regret for moments from the past where you did hurt someone, or I think it's very hard for you to see people get hurt. Like, you may be very sensitive to like violence in not only in like the news or in person, but even in fiction, like books and TV and movies. And it's interesting that I get so much kind of feelings with you guys because we don't have the Queen of Cups here, which I would expect that more with the queens. But, you know, again, we have 2 queens here, but then we have the Empress, which is basically all of the queens. We have so much queen energy. And I think that you're meant to, in this life, be a leader in some way. But it feels, because, you know, there was some of this in group 1, but it feels a little quieter, or it feels maybe less aggressive. Not that group 1 was necessarily aggressive, but both of these groups are very powerful, and yet the power is felt and exuded in very different ways. You have a big heart. You really love and you really care. And I think that the older you get, the more that you care. But I also think the more that you are able to hold healthy boundaries in order to live your purpose in this world, in order to give in the ways that you're here to give, to create in the ways you're here to create, to lead in the ways you're here to lead. And I think that ultimately many of you could be in a role where many people see you, hear you, experience you, maybe even like answer to you in some way, but it's not like you're royalty bossing everybody around, but rather like you could be in some kind of a leadership position because you are a gentle leader, a caring leader, someone who strives for people to feel good and to feel safe and to feel protected. And I think that for many of you here, honesty and truth could be a core value for you. And I think that you're actually meant to experience abundance and wealth. We see that with the Empress and with the Queen of Pentacles, that, you know, some of you may have grown up in a family that had money, or some of you may have had the opposite. And yet you are moving into a situation, or maybe you already have, where you're going to be able to experience more luxury, more abundance, more choice. And it does feel like there's a lot of choice here. And that, again, I think some of you have had difficult female lives, and now you're meant to be in a female body, perhaps, where you get to experience a life where you get to make the choices. You get to decide who you marry, if you marry. You get to decide what career you want to do, whether you do this or that. Like there's a lot more kind of like, I'm a human being in this life, and I get to make decisions, whereas maybe in past lives you didn't. And so it's kind of like a rewriting of what it's like to be in this body or in this kind of a life. But you do have a gentle quality coming through, gentle quality to your energy and kind of what you give off, what other people pick up on. And there's always people who see us in a different way, right? There's probably people who don't think you're gentle, who think you're harsh or think you're a bitch or think you're an asshole. I mean, there's always going to be someone that projects their own shit onto you, right? So, but I'm feeling your energy, and it's gentle. There's a sweetness to you. There's a kindness to you. There's even sort of a feeling of like innocence, in the sense that you don't feel jaded. Or if you are feeling jaded by life, it feels like you're going to be moving out of that energy and into a space where you have more available to you. I think you're really meant in this life to have more available, more choice, perhaps more luxury. And I think that many of you are going to be passing wisdom on to other people. And I think that you may not feel like you're worthy of that at times, or that people should be listening to you, or that kind of thing. But you might be surprised at where you end up if you're not there already. And I think that you're really going to be creating things in this life. Some of you could identify as creative people. But whether you do or not, you're going to be creating things. I think that many of you have a love for beautiful things and for high quality things. And I think that, I think that many of you, this is interesting. Why is it always so hard to speak? Some of you are going to be on a really interesting path. And some of you are helping people to freedom. So this can look in a few different ways. You may be helping people who are escaping a war-torn country to not one, or you could be helping people spiritually awaken and leave behind limiting beliefs. You could be helping people to heal their energy. There's many, many, many ways where this energy could show up, but somehow it feels like a big part of your focus and your purpose here is to help lead people to freedom, to free their minds, to free their bodies, to free themselves from limiting factors, and that you have this really motherly or parental and empathetic and kind and compassionate energy that, whatever it is that you're doing to assist people, whether you feel that you are in service to people or you just manage to help people in your day-to-day life being you, I think people need you because of your energy, because of the way that you approach things, the way that you speak, the words that you say, the energy that you exude, because some people are just really going to respond to that, whereas they may not respond to someone else, or they may not trust someone else. So you're basically some of you are getting messages across. Like, I think some of you are like channeling spiritual wisdom and getting messages across to people who wouldn't be able to hear them otherwise, or you're helping people to see things that they wouldn't be able to see otherwise because they feel safe, because they can trust you, because you tell the truth, and because you care so much. And I think that if you have struggled with boundaries, because I do feel like that was some of you, you've either already gotten kind of really good at deciding and discerning what you need and how to protect yourself, or you are on your way to doing that. And that's also part of why you're here, is like to be limitless and also to work with limits, if that makes sense. So, in some way you're here to like be free and help other people be free in whatever way that is for you, while also kind of working with the energies of limits and the energies of confinement, like freedom with boundaries. I hope that makes sense. So, group 2, how does your purpose impact your relationships or other people? We have the 10 of Wands. Okay. Well, we have 3. Let's see what they are. Oh, no, we have 4. I'm going to draw again. Okay. We have the 7 of Swords. I'm a little surprised at what we've got so far. Oh, but it makes sense. Okay. Okay, we'll take these 2. We have the 7 of Cups, and we have the 6 of Pentacles. I believe we had the 6 of Pentacles in this section in the first group, too. So interesting. Okay. So how does your purpose impact your relationships or other people? We have on the surface some cards that are, seen as more quote unquote negative. But the first thing, when I really looked at them, the first thing that came up is like, again, I think you're helping people free themselves. You have a very interesting and I think fulfilling purpose here in life that I think some of you have already begun and are already living. And I think some of you are still kind of taking the steps that bring you to this place, like freeing yourself of something, for example. So I think that you're helping people see the truth about themselves, the truth about their lives, the truth about their relationships, what lifts them up and what brings them down. It feels to me like you really help bring clarity to other people's minds and their perspectives and even their feelings. I think that you help people see what's in their way and help people clear what's in their way. And instead of doing it for them, you seem to be helping people figure out how to do things for themselves. And so, this is like how you give back. Your energy is very peaceful for me to sit in. I was going to say live in for some reason. But I also am feeling like emotion come to the surface, which I find interesting. And I think that some of you feel like this is your group, but you don't feel peaceful and you don't feel free and you don't feel like you have purpose in your day to day. And what I want to say to you is it is coming. It's on the way. And that I feel like one day you're going to feel so calm and so at peace. And I think even if you're not there yet, I dare say you have had moments that have felt that way, but they felt maybe fleeting. You couldn't hold on to them and make them last, but you had moments of feeling limitless, feeling open, feeling your heart without walls, feeling like you could see life clearly, where perhaps there have been moments where it no longer felt like it was so hard or such a big deal or that everything is stressful and everything is bad. And I think that sometimes maybe some of you get caught up in feeling anxious or depressed or stressed or burdened, or maybe your body hurts or something. And maybe you feel confused. You don't know where to go. Like the path is so unclear and it's just, I think hard sometimes. And then you have these little moments or even periods of time that are very clear, very open, you feel awake again. And you're going to feel a lot more awake one day. It's all going to become so clear and you will help other people too. We usually see the 7 of Swords as someone like taking the swords and running off with them. But look at this. we have the 10 of wands here, this person carrying all these wands. And I know that these are swords, but it looks to me like this person's carrying all this. And then they move into this next card where they've kind of let some of it go. They have 10 right here and they're holding 5 here. So it's like they've let some stuff go, they're letting more go, and they're continuing, but they're still holding on to some things to make themselves feel safe. And so I think that on the one hand, you can relate to this. Like maybe you've done some things to release. You've done some things to let go. You've changed, you've transformed, you've released some burdens in some ways, or you're working on that, but you may still be kind of carrying some stuff around, or, because it makes you feel safe. We do things a lot of times to protect ourselves, right? And this is also how you impact other people. You're helping people to make the decision or allow themselves to release the past, release old relationships, release old beliefs, release old places, and move forward with a sense of lightness because they're carrying so much less. And I feel emotion come up again. I had this with group 1 too. Like I just feel like you're going to make such a powerful difference by leading the way for other people. And that, I said this to group 1 too. I'm sorry to keep mentioning them, but it really feels like group 1 has like a real powerful purpose here to help change the paradigm and the dynamic that we have with modern life. And I think that you also have that purpose, and it shows up in another way. And it's just as necessary and just as needed and so incredible in its own really magical way. And I think that you are creating more light and more lightness of being. You are lightening your own load and helping others to do the same, which is bringing a sense of ease and limitlessness and freedom and magic to this world. And that you may be doing this in all different kinds of ways, like big ways or small ways, or, just by being yourself or as your career. And it's really, really powerful. You're here to help people remember who they really are, what's really important, like things like joy and laughter and light, rather than control and lack and striving to have lots of money at the expense of others, And at the same time, I think that you are going to have money in abundance, but not in a way where it's like hoarding. You know what I mean? Not trying to get like political and stuff, but you're here to give and to receive. Not only are you here to help, and I think that you have felt this kind of like, again, like weight of the world on your shoulders. You're not here to fix the whole world and every person in it and take responsibility for everything. You're here to help in the way that you help. And even small ripples can make big waves that you don't necessarily see or know about right away. Yet you're also here to receive in kind. So you're not here to just give. You are also living this life to receive. Again, it makes me think some of you have had past lives where you did have a lot of lack, where you weren't compensated, where you gave a lot and didn't receive in return. And so one thing that you're meant to experience in this life, and part of the deal for you here, is to receive. So to have abundance, to receive from other people as well, to also be taken care of, to also be loved, to be compensated for your work and your efforts and your energy, to receive positive energy in return, and that you're not here to be a martyr, but rather to give in the ways that you can and also receive in kind and receive abundantly. And so I think some of you have struggled with that receiving or receptive energy, and some of you have struggled with lack or struggled with self-worth issues or not feeling good enough for things. And so that's also kind of meant to change in this life. And And this also affects your other relationships because you're not meant to be in relation to people where you just take care of them and you just love them and you just give to them and you don't get it back. And so I definitely think that some of you have been involved with either romantically, platonically, or with family relationships that did take more than they gave or took a lot and gave you awful things in return. And so I think some of that has happened in order to get you to see what hurts you, what doesn't fill you up, what you truly deserve. Do you deserve that treatment? No. And so I think some of what you're kind of learning and going through in this life is allowing yourself to receive wonderful things and feeling worthy of them. And so I think there's some healing being done on that level. And again, that impacts other people by setting an example, but it also impacts your relationships and how they feel for you and for the other person, and the types of relationships that you form. And I think that in some ways, the whole world's going to open up to you and you're going to have a whole lot of choice. Group 2, you have such interesting energy. It's really lovely. Let's take a look at how your purpose impacts or adds to your work life or your hobbies or your day-to-day. Okay, something I want to say before I draw the cards is you are going to have moments or periods of time of confusion, not knowing what step to take, not knowing where it's going to lead, questioning yourself, questioning life. That's like part of the whole thing. Okay. So if that's happening for you, that's just, it's going to fade. It's going to go away. We have the Wheel of Fortune, the Lovers, the Six of Wands, and finally we have the King of Wands. Okay. So how does your purpose relate to or add to your work life or your hobbies or your what you spend your time on? So 2 major arcana. We have a court card here. So I definitely think for many of you, your purpose is going to be directly related to what you're spending your time on and how you probably make money as well. And we have more leadership energy here but the King of Wands is, I always think like with the wands, I think authenticity, but especially with the King of Wands, I always think like totally authentically himself. Like the King of Wands is so authentic, leads from an authentic, honest place, trusts themselves, is not afraid to be themselves, has a confidence. And I definitely think you're getting in more and more into this energy, being unafraid of being yourself, unafraid of other people's opinions, unafraid to speak the truth and to be who you are, to look who you are and not try to be somebody perfect. And I think that if you have struggled with some of that, eventually you're just going to be like, fuck it. I am myself. I have more fun being myself. I think that, some of you may look very put together. You may be very attractive, but I think that you're going to be even more magnetic and even more attractive at a certain point when it becomes like slightly less polished, or you accept more of yourself, your personality, who you are, how you look. And this, since it's showing up in your work life or your hobbies, you could be taking on more creative hobbies or going down a road where you're getting to express yourself in some kind of hobby. But it also feels like as you move more into or you do work that is very you will find more and more success as well. And we see that with the Six of Wands too. Victory and success and being loved and cared for in whatever way you kind of lead, whether that is being a leader at work or leading by example. Or just existing and other people notice it and are influenced by it. There are definitely lots of people who support what you do, love who you are, love your authenticity, and feel really inspired by that. And some of you do have something unusual about your body, because I was kind of thinking of that with the King of Wands, but then I looked over here and we have this hand with see 5 fingers here. It's a 6-fingered hand, so you could have 6 fingers on one hand or 4 fingers on one hand or 6 toes or 3 toes or 1 leg, or you could have like extra of something or have less of something than the average person. And that's just, I think, being noted here as confirmation for somebody. I think that some of you are really going to find, I don't know why this makes me laugh, but you're going to find yourself on a path you didn't see coming. You didn't expect it. I think you're going to be really happy about it. But I think for those of you who have really been in the fog about where you're going, what to do, whether anything you do makes any difference, I think that once you're through that fog, you're going to be like, how did I get here though? Like, what? It's almost like for some of you, it's like you didn't even know here was a possibility, or it's more than you ever dreamed, or it's something you didn't know existed. And I think that you're going to find yourself going down a path you're really happy with and that you can really commit to. And that's also going to be kind of peaceful for you. So if you're in a job or your day to day is something that you just don't like and you feel resentment for and you feel resistance toward, this is going to change. And it feels like you're going to have a long extended period of time where things are better. So if you are 20 years old, you've got a whole lot of life that's going to be a lot better. If you're 65 years old, you're not going to die next year. Like, there's still time where you get to experience the lovely parts of life, the victory, having the things that you want, living as who you are. And I think that also, even though the Lovers isn't always romantic, I do think for some of you that you could be in a long-term romantic relationship or business partnership, but it impacts your business or your work life. So even if it is a love romantic relationship, you could end up working together or having a similar mission, or this relationship really works well with your work life, especially once you find something that you love and really feels fulfilling to and really satisfying to you. You're going to have partnership here is what I'm getting with this Lovers, and it's long-term, it's committed, and it's someone that you work really well with. Could just be a business partner, but it could also be a life partner that really helps and adds to and supports this part of your life. And with this wheel, we see several figures here in this hand on the in the center of the wheel, but also in some ways at the top of the wheel. And it feels like you take people with you, or you have people with you. And so when you reach the place that you want to go, or when you get to a career life you really love, or when you release yourself from burdens or whatever, and you feel free, you're with other people. You're not alone. So, I think that sometimes things come in and there's no words for them. And I'm like, what are the words? I feel a lot of peace with you. And if you don't feel that now, it's on the way. It's like your birthright. It's part of your purpose here is to be aligned with peace, freedom, and also to still live life and take actions in life and enjoy the physical aspects of life, good food, beautiful surroundings, nature, relationships with other people, and dressing yourself in clothes you like, and, the sunshine and all that. How can you feel more purposeful and fulfilled? We have the Five of Wands. The Knight of Wands. And it's funny because I feel like there's been one card in each question that's been the same as the last group. I might be wrong about that, but I don't know if I keep talking about group one because some of you also need to listen to group one. Do whatever you want. Or maybe you and group one are going to work together on something. Sorry. This is weird. I don't know if this is like confirmation for some specific person, but I just saw like exit 4, like on a highway, like take exit 4. Or the number 4 could be important to you. And then exit 3. And now I'm thinking like, is it 4, 3, 2, 1? Like you're on your way somewhere. Is it a Beatles song that's like Blackbird? I'm hearing some of the lyrics. I don't know if that's important to someone or a sign for somebody. I don't know why I keep getting these little signs rather than cards coming out, but it's like, is it like mend your broken wing and fly or something like that? And then it kind of feels like some of you are feeling kind of wounded. This could be physical. It could be that you've been dealing with a physical issue or injury and or something that's been slowing you down, or it could be an emotional or mental wound or relational wound or something. And so I think, and maybe some of you have been nursing a wound for some time, and that some mending is in order. I think you're getting help with that, but I think you're kind of being told to like put some intentional energy in that. Or for those of you who have been on the mend or past something, whatever you've done to kind of patch yourself up and heal is working, and it's totally fine. Some of you might walk with a cane or have a cane. Whether that's temporary or something more permanent. But if you don't worry. I'm not telling you that you are going to. This feels like a confirmation for someone, like someone who's had an injury or someone who walks with a cane already, or even like someone who hikes with a walking stick. I think I'm just getting confirmations, I guess. And I also have this feeling that like, we're asking how you can feel more purposeful and fulfilled. And I just kind of get this energy of like, you will, you kind of like keep going. But let's see what else comes out. We have strength. Yeah, just kind of what I was talking about. And finally, we have the Ace of Wands. Okay, it's interesting because we have 3 Wands cards, kind of movement and action. And then I also get this feeling of like not forcing yourself to move. So let me sit with this for a sec and see what we have to see. well, I'm hearing someone tell you I'm not going to let you do this on your own. And, a lot of times with the Five of Wands, we see conflict or fighting, but this actually feels like you have people or spirits fighting on your behalf, fighting for you. You have protection. You have, you definitely have energies in your corner that want to see you succeed and want to see you have a new beginning and want to see you go where it is you feel called to go. And they are here to encourage you and motivate you and help you return to a place of strength and energy if you have not been in a place of feeling strong and confident and energetic, because I do think a lot of you haven't really been feeling that lately or maybe ever. And so, you definitely have energies in your corner wanting to see you succeed, wanting to see you moving forward. And I get another health message. I don't know why I'm getting this a lot. So there must definitely be some people in this group dealing with physical stuff, whether that's your appearance or the feeling of your physical body. But things are mending, becoming better, healing, and I think some of you have been slowed down or unable to move forward, and that could be short term or long term, and that this does feel like it's changing. I actually feel like this is a little bit less about how you can feel more purposeful and fulfilled, and rather that there are things happening in the background to help you get there. I also think some of you, it's like with the lightening of your energy, it also releases things from your body and allows your body to be kind of lighter and healthier and more in balance and more in harmony. And I think your mind and your body are going to be more and more in harmony. I think some of you with long-standing, confusing medical issues are going to find some relief there, whether it's a complete disappearance of these things or finding something that remedies it and helps it, or kind of, it's almost like you don't care about something anymore. Like it doesn't take up mental energy anymore. Like if you have an achy knee and it bothers you every single day, it's like, maybe it still aches, but you like just don't notice it. You don't notice it a whole lot anymore or something. And I think for some of you, there's like a complete relief. There's going to be a renewal of passion, creativity, motivation, inspiration, wanting to move forward. I think for those of you who this is another message around love and relationships, but for some of you who haven't felt like passion for anybody, who maybe you haven't felt attracted to anybody, maybe you've been single a long time, there's going to be a return of passion as well. So it's not that just that you're going to live some peaceful, abundant life, like helping other people become more peaceful, but you are also like having fun with the physical aspects of life and relationships and joy and things like that. And that's it. I'm going to see if there's anything else. And I was told, nope, end it there. So that's all I have for you today, my sweet group 2. And thank you so much for spending time with me. If this reading was helpful or you enjoyed it, please let me know by liking the video. Leave a comment if you're up for it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you again soon. Okay? Bye. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Chrysocolla and the Kawaii Tarot. Welcome to your reading. Today's reading focuses on your purpose. And I told the last 2 groups this, but I don't think we're necessarily here for one singular purpose. So we'll just talk about whatever part of your purpose comes out in the cards and the energies today. And we'll also look at how your purpose impacts your relationships or other people, your work, your day-to-day, and how you can feel more purposeful and fulfilled, or whatever else you may need to know when we get to the end of this. Okay. So for Group 3, what is Group 3's purpose in this life? Strength. The Fool. Three of Cups. and the Six of Pentacles. So this doesn't have to be the case for everyone, but it could be confirmation for someone right off the bat. But I did feel like some of you are very private people, or that some people think of you as kind of secretive or even kind of closed off. And that would be some people. I don't think everyone would feel that way if that is the case. But let's see what we have here. I also want to mention that I've been getting anxiety with your group for some reason. So I think some of you may deal with anxiety a lot of the time, or you may be in an anxious part of your life. Obviously, not all of you have to be anxious, but it's coming through strong enough that many of you seem to be dealing with anxiety to a degree, maybe even anxiety about where to go next. Or how to get your needs fulfilled. I think some of you do feel confused about your purpose here in life at times. Like you don't feel purposeful, or it just kind of feels like you're not living some grand adventure that you thought you should be. Or I wonder if there is some like escaping sometimes the dull day to day, whether that's a job that you don't love that much, or a life that you just kind of feel is sort of boring or dull, or your relationships are, or you're in school and you don't like it, or I don't know. I think for some of you, it just kind of feels like sometimes you just want to have fun. You just want to laugh. You just want to play and to be free. And I feel like the constraints of life often make you feel bored, tired, restricted, exhausted, and that it would be really nice not to feel that way, which I think most people can, well, maybe not most people, but a lot of people can relate to. I feel like you're a very old soul. You've been around the block a lot of times before. And so there's a feeling of like, this again, why did I choose to do this again? And wanting to enjoy the good and the fun and the joyful aspects of life without having to deal with the parts of life that are not so much fun. I keep hearing a song, but I can't remember who does it or what it's called or the exact lyrics, but it's something about like waking up and the war is over and the birds are singing again. I don't know if any of you know what that song is. But there's this feeling to you where it kind of feels like your sense of purpose is more activated at a certain point, not only in your life, but in things that are happening in where you live or in the world or in society. It's interesting because in all three groups, I've gotten these kind of like messages and feelings about society changing, the world changing, and that the last two groups, at least, I don't know, maybe you also have this, but like the last two groups felt like they're really playing a role in kind of changing that paradigm. And I don't know why these energies are so present here, but it feels like you kind of get activated in a kind of way, or you like kind of something wakes up in you after something changes or as things are changing or something. And I think at times you feel very resistant of the way things are. And I think that's very common. I think a lot of us are unhappy with the way things are. It might just be the way things are in your specific life. Like you don't necessarily like that you have to go to work in order to afford to live, or you have to do your chores and your errands in order to continue to be a person. I feel a resistance with you, and it feels like you just want to have fun and you want to maybe create, and you've had to be very strong in certain ways to just continue to do the day to day. And I think that you do bring a lot of joy and a lot of fun to other people. You might really make people laugh, or you kind of like, you bring a sense of fun to other people. And I definitely think that's part of why you're here, why what you get out of being here is reminding people of joy, is of making people laugh, and kind of waking people out of their slumber at times. Like, I think that you might be the person where if someone's having a bad day, you manage to make them laugh, or that kind of thing. And so you do bring a sense of joy. And sorry, I'm a little slow with you because it's kind of hard for me to sort out. I don't know if because there's a kind of a fog around you right now, you maybe feel a little confused or some anxiety in some of your energy, but I am getting a message for some of you around your childhood, and that, okay, one thing is the Three of Cups sometimes reminds me of siblings, and especially like 3 siblings. So this could be another confirmation for someone that you're one of 3. Obviously, it does not have to be the case, but because this keeps reminding me of siblings, and then something about this strength card is making me think that you had to be strong for other people when you were a kid, whether that was your siblings or your parents or someone else, or that you played a role in your childhood that did bring other people joy or kind of lightened the energy or lightened the mood. Because I think some of you were in situations that were heavy, challenging, difficult, where your childhood wasn't always kind of like easy breezy and joyous and fun, and that in some way you might have held it together for someone else. And I'm feeling emotion come up to the surface with that. I've really had emotion come up in all 3 of these readings, which is interesting, but it really feels like, I wonder if you feel emotional about things from your childhood or someone from your childhood, like a friend or a sibling or something, gets emotional when they think about like what you did for them or how you helped them survive or get through childhood. And in some way, I think that you kind of lightened the mood, or you brought joy, or you made someone laugh. Like, I think you maybe did this with your friends, again, possibly siblings or cousins, or it could have been adults, but I feel like for most of you, it was like other kids. And that I think in some ways you don't even know, and you don't even realize how much you impacted people in positive ways that were going through hard times. And I get so emotional when this energy comes up. And I think that someone, and I think more than one person are really grateful to the impact that you've had. And I wonder if sometimes you don't give yourself enough credit for the ways that you've positively impacted people, especially if you get hard on yourself about the ways you've negatively impacted other people. And that you could have some regrets around that. You could have some guilt around ways that you weren't always the nicest, or you were kind of mean, or you blew people off or whatever. But I think that you don't always realize the way that you've also really positively impacted other people's lives and where you gave other people strength. And I think that you continue to do that. And I think that you maybe don't always get credit for this because people are often giving credit to other ways of being helped. Whereas if you make someone laugh, they might be happy in the moment, or feel better in the moment, but they may not. I don't know. It's almost like you don't always get enough credit for the way that you help other people or uplift other people. And I think that you get very hard on yourself. That's what I feel like with you, is that you kind of you don't give yourself enough credit for the things that you do. And I wonder if this also goes back to childhood, maybe being told things about yourself, or being made to feel unworthy or not good enough, or just some like background character or something like that, when in reality you're so special. And I think that part of what you will do in this life is that specialness will be revealed to you more and more and more. You will be more and more open to yourself. You'll be more generous to yourself, more giving to yourself. And that's part of like what your soul wants to learn by being here, is going through the experiences that you go through in order to not only bring this kind of like joyful, uplifting energy and to have fun in this life and have a balance of like, having to be a person and the annoying aspects of that. And then like having the fun aspects of life, like joy and eating good food and traveling and exploring and these kinds of things. And I think that you really wanted to kind of learn a lesson around self-love and really loving and accepting yourself. And I think that that's a big part of what you're kind of doing in the circumstances that you're in this life. Yeah, you bring new energy in some way to situations and to other people. And I think that there's going to be a turning point, if there hasn't already, in your life where you really kind of understand and come to terms with who you really are, what you really have to offer. You forgive yourself for things from the past. You forgive other people for things from the past, and that there's like an opening up that's coming with some of you. And so again, I get this feeling with some of you that there is a bit of a guardedness, a closed offness. Obviously, that doesn't have to be the case for everyone, but I think the majority of people here, you do have a wall up, a guard up, and that it has protected you, but eventually you're going to release that. You're going to choose to release that, or it will be released. And I think that you're going to experience a very different feeling when it comes to life, when it comes to relationships, and that there will be more kind of giving and receiving energy, more generosity toward yourself and others, and more receiving. I wonder if at times you feel like you're a burden, or you do feel very burdened by life, by other people. And I really think that this is going to be altered in some way. It does feel like very quickly at some point. Let's see how your purpose impacts your relationships or other people. Actually, let me turn the AC on. It's pretty hot. Okay, how does your purpose impact your relationships or other people? The Queen of Pentacles. The Hermit. The Nine of Wands. And we have the Nine of Cups. Can you see these? Yeah. Okay. So, how does your purpose impact your relationships or other people? With the Queen of Pentacles, you could be someone who has a cozy home, or you cook for other people, or you make other people feel safe and secure. You might not always be like warm and fuzzy emotionally. I mean, you might be, but for some of you, I don't think you're always kind of like emotionally warm and fuzzy, but that you might be a really good host, or you know how to make someone feel safe, or you give people things, or again, you like nurture people by cooking for them or something like that. And that I think people really, if you do have people over, people love being in your home. And if you cook for people, people love your food. If you give people plants, like whatever it is that you do offer to other people out of a sense of love or kindness is really appreciated. And that in whatever way you do love, you may feel like you're lacking in some area, like, well, this other person loves like this and I can't. And the thing is that I don't think some of you always realize that the way that you love and the way that you give is really genuinely appreciated. And I think that people often do feel very cared for, whoever it is that you do care about. Again, there's this kind of feeling that you make people feel better sometimes. And that, when someone is feeling wounded or hurt or tired, or they're feeling a sense of lack, you're able to kind of, again, I think for some of you, you make people laugh, but you also are able to help people to see what they have. It's like you are able to remind people that all is not lost and that everything is okay. And I don't know if that's always with words or in some other way, by like showing people. Again, I do feel like a lot of you guys hold some anxiety, and I think sometimes you don't see everything that you have, and you get very anxious and worried about your own life and about other people that you care about, and that I think the anxiety sometimes sits in your stomach. Some of you could have digestive issues or potentially autoimmune issues or something. I think sometimes you forget to slow down and enjoy what you have, which, everybody does sometimes, right? I do feel like a little bit like I'm struggling to read your energy clearly or see like a clear path. Again, it makes me wonder if you feel unclear, if your path feels unclear or foggy, or if sometimes you struggle to understand yourself or parts of yourself. I think that sometimes you might be this little hermit where you need to hide away from the world. You need time to yourself, or you need time in places that feel kind of safe and quiet, or where you can think. I think that, even though I feel like there's a bit of a struggle to love yourself at times, there are other times where you deeply do love yourself, and that really you don't love the way other people have treated you, or you don't love the way the world has treated you, and it's made you question yourself. But I do think, and I think this was maybe in another recent reading on this channel, but there's this feeling of kind of like escaping and needing to be alone. And because this is how you might impact relationships or other people, I wonder if sometimes this might hurt people's feelings, because with the Queen of Pentacles and the Nine of Cups, it kind of feels like sometimes you're so present, you're so giving, you're so this and that. And then with the Nine of Wands and the Hermit, it sometimes feels like you feel wounded or tired, or you need to escape and you need to be by yourself. And that I think sometimes people could be confused by this or think it's inconsistent, or I think sometimes it could hurt people's feelings if it's not well communicated. And that's not to make you feel bad or guilty, because I think you carry enough guilt around anyway. Like, you don't need to carry more guilt around, but it's just something that's coming forward for some of you, where I think sometimes people are confused by your actions, because I don't think you're necessarily the most wordy about your feelings, even if you speak to them sometimes. I do think sometimes you feel like you don't belong, like you lack a sense of belonging, or you feel like you have to act a certain way to belong, and it makes you feel tired because it makes you feel like you can't be authentically yourself. And yet when you are authentically being yourself, there are people in your life that so love and appreciate that. And then I think sometimes you find yourself trying to prove yourself to other people and feeling like everybody has to like you, or everybody has to love you for you to feel okay. And in fact, for you, that's just not the case. I mean, it's not the case for anybody, but I think that you are sometimes misunderstood, and that weighs on you a little bit. And I think that you often feel the impact of your relationships to other people in ways that maybe other people aren't even feeling. Like you might feel very hurt by something someone says, and then need to go kind of hide away and tend to your wounds. And I think then there are other times where you're very kind of like gregarious and maybe more extroverted and more happy to be around people. But I just feel like you get anxiety, and that sometimes, like, even when you do feel like emotionally fulfilled when you're with other people, you might question it later. And that, again, I think this comes back to maybe your childhood, something that has happened there. Maybe you had a lot of inconsistency in your home or at school, and this has affected you as you've moved forward in life. And I don't know, it makes me feel sad, because I think that sometimes your mind doesn't let you see the truth of things, and rather it worries. And so I think sometimes this makes you feel like you're not good enough. But the thing is that you do bring good to other people's lives. Like other people do like having you around. There are people who do appreciate your authentic self and would also be totally okay with your needs, even when it doesn't serve the other person's needs. I think that part of what you're doing here in this life is like, again, there's this kind of learning around loving yourself, accepting love from other people, and feeling worthy, and even kind of giving up some kind of fight or something, you know. I just feel like I want to give you a hug, but a hug isn't enough because ultimately you've got to see things for yourself. And I think that's part of where you're going. You are getting to see and perceive and understand things for yourself. And it's changing your life, and it's changing your perception and your ability to see clearly. And I think that you are a very wise person and that you're growing more and more. You're in your wisdom, in your insights, and in the way that you live life. And I think that sometimes when you do things and you change aspects of yourself or the ways that you are in life, you still beat yourself up for the ways you used to be. And it's not fair. It's time to forgive yourself for the things in the past and forgive yourself for not being perfect in the present. Because I think that you do care. And I think that perfection is something that's not really that attainable, you know? So how does your purpose add to your work life or your hobbies or your day to day? The 5 of Wands and the Ace of Wands. The Hierophant. And the 4 of Pentacles. Okay. So how does your purpose show up in your work or hobby life, or how does it add to it? I think that you value safety, material security, commitment in the long term. I think you value rules to a certain degree, even though I feel like you're always kind of fighting to be free of them. And so you could be a rule follower or someone who comes up with rules, or I think that there's a part of you that likes it feels like approval again, actually, a little bit with you of like, you know, in order to feel safe and secure and protected, you need to sort of follow rules and do what you're told and kind of not upset anyone. And so I think that even when you don't agree with rules and things like that, you're still likely to follow them in your workplace, in your, socially, wherever you're involved with other people, because I think that one thing is like material security, right? Like you have to kind of go along to get along at work in order to have enough money to live. Or again, this could come back to your childhood a little bit, where in order to feel safe and secure and not like get in trouble or whatever, you kind of go along with the quote unquote rules of the household or rules of your caretakers or the rules at school, because it maybe kept you under the radar when other people got in trouble, or it just kind of kept things safe in some way. And so, but again, I do feel like it kind of does feel like it holds you down in some ways, because I think sometimes you feel a bit trapped at work or in the organizations you're involved in, or in the social systems you're in. I think that sometimes you have this desire to break free and just be free and just have fun. And yet you do sometimes feel like you've got to go along to get along. The 5 of Wands, sometimes this is about, and this one doesn't feel like, sometimes the 5 of Wands can be like conflict, but this doesn't even really feel like conflict. Of course, we've got this super cute kawaii tarot deck. And but this feels kind of sweet, and it feels like, more fun competition. So I do have to wonder if some of you are into games or gaming in some way, or sports, athletics, or something that involves or like even like writing competitions or art competitions or something. And I think that it's less, I mean, you could be competitive, like you could really enjoy winning, but I think it's like the fun of the game, the fun of the competition, and that whatever it is, whether it's a game or it's art or it's a sport, I think that this could be part of your hobby life, as you enjoy doing things that aren't just solitary. Like you're not just trying to read 75 books in 1 year. You're trying to reach a goal while also like checking in on how other people are doing with that. Or you're not just drawing a picture for yourself. You're maybe drawing it to give to other people or to enter an art competition. Or again, you like to play games or something. So I think that your sense of fun that we've been seeing from the beginning comes into your work or your hobbies, and how that equates to other people as well. And I think that you just really make people laugh, and you really bring joy into other people's hearts, and that people enjoy doing things with you. And I think that there is some part of like your purpose in this life, or I do think at some point in your life, maybe this has already happened for some of you, but I think for many of you, it's yet to come, that you are ultimately going to find abundance and security and safety in a place that is more fun, that holds more passion for you, more joy, more creativity, more play, and that ultimately it's going to have less rules, and it's less about doing what you've always been told and more about doing what you want to do and what makes you happy. So I do see a new beginning when it comes to career and hobbies and what you do with your time, and that ultimately I think you're going to be a lot happier one day, but that doesn't mean it's joy every second. I think that, this cactus still has, what are they called? The sharp little thorn things. And so I think that there are still moments of irritation, still moments of competition, still moments of feeling like you could fall. I think that you like to have a certain kind of structure to rely on because it does make you feel safe. And I think that sometimes when you go into realms where you don't have that, you get a little bit anxious and a little bit worried. I mean, look at this cute little sloth here. The Ace of Wands is such a happy card, but it kind of feels like, oh my God, what if I fall in? I think that maybe you are meant to move in some ways that are a little bit riskier. And we had the Fool in the beginning as well. And that's somebody who takes risks, but they are calculated. That's taking calculated risks rather than impulsive risks. But I think that you really have a desire to feel safe, and that shows up a lot in your day-to-day life. But you also have this desire to be free and to create. And I got a little emotional when I said that. So I think you're maybe meant to move toward creative pursuits or fun things that feel fun, that feel a little more wild and free, but it doesn't mean you have to abandon the structures that you have or the order that you have or the organizations that you're in. I think that there is a sense of safety that comes with that. Let us look at how you can feel more purposeful or fulfilled, or whatever wants to come out at the end, whatever else could be helpful for you to know or to do or whatever. I'm going to give this another quick shuffle, get some fresh energy into the deck. Okay. What is group 3? How can group 3 feel more purposeful or fulfilled, or what do you want them to know? Justice. The Two of Pentacles. Sorry, I'm laughing because as soon as Justice came out, I thought balance. And then we have the Two of Pentacles, which is balance. The Knight of Pentacles. And the Two of Swords. Okay. There's different things here, but it does all speak to balance to a degree. And so this talks about ensuring that you're getting enough balance. So that's, getting enough sleep, having food you enjoy and food that is good for you, getting outside, being inside, being around people, being alone, doing things to further your life or further your interests, and slowing down and relaxing and doing nothing, and just ensuring that you're not going to extremes if you are going to extremes, but that balance is really helpful for you and that it's something to be aware of and cognizant of. Being fair to yourself, that's coming forward, and not beating yourself up or thinking that you're the worst or even thinking that you're superior or better than other people, although, maybe your actions are better than someone else's. But being really fair to yourself in the sense that in a few ways of like forgiving yourself and not beating yourself up, but also like being fair to yourself around not putting up with bad behavior from other people and having boundaries, and not, if you're the kind of person where everybody likes this other person, say their name is Robert, and you're like, I don't like something about Robert. I think he's kind of a dick. I don't understand why everyone likes him, and I don't like him, but I have to go along to get along. There's that phrase again. And it's like, no, you actually don't. Like, you don't have to be a jerk back to Robert, but you can have boundaries there of like, I don't trust something about this person, or I don't trust something about this thing, and really trusting your own intuitive knowing and your own intuition and your gut feelings about other people. And even if your opinions change about people, like if you're friends with someone, but then they seem to be proving that they're not that great of a friend, you can change your mind. I think that there's just a need to continue to trust yourself, trust how you feel, trust how other people's actions and words make you feel. And it's not about like, holding people accountable to the degree where you never forgive people. But that's another thing, is like forgiving other people if they change. I think maybe you're already really good at that. Some of you. I do. Again, we see with the Two of Swords this kind of feeling of like not always knowing where you're going or where to go or what to do. And there's this message that is coming through around you're not living life wrong. You're not doing it incorrectly. And that part of being here is sometimes not knowing. It is sometimes making mistakes. It is sometimes learning. And that you're doing what you set out to do here. And that there is, again, I feel like there is going to be change. There are going to be new beginnings. There are going to be different ways that you move into a more like joyful and a balanced existence. Like if you're working really hard right now and you're so tired, you might find that one day you're working a lot less and you have more energy. There's some kind of balance that seems to be coming. And part of that is ensuring that you're kind of balancing things out. And I think maybe, again, you're kind of already doing that. But I wonder if you kind of like move to an extreme of something before you realize that you've been doing too much. Like maybe you're like, you party too much or you sleep too much or something, where it's like you have reached sort of an extreme before you recalibrate. And I wonder if there's a little bit of like, let's recalibrate a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? And so that it's not you socialize too much for 2 weeks and then you have to spend 2 months alone. Like it's like, okay, I've been out twice this week. Maybe I need a night off. I don't know what it is for you, but that's just an example. I think maybe you would benefit from eating more vegetables, or if you have been eating more vegetables, you're getting like, I'm seeing like some applause. And that's not to say you can't eat other things, but there's something about vegetables for some of you. Or if you're growing vegetables or you want to have a garden or something, I think this could be beneficial for those of you who want to do something like that. Obviously, you don't have to do it if it's not something you want to do. And, balancing like work and play and these kinds of things, like I think that you feel very burdened sometimes by like the day to day that comes with life. And man, I can relate to that. But it's also like you've got to ensure, and maybe you are already doing this, but ensure that you're also like having fun and letting loose and enjoying life in the time that you have to enjoy it. So if you're already doing that, again, this is kind of like you're getting accolades for that. Like there's kind of this like, I heard like, we know it sucks. Like, your spirit guides, whoever's on the other side is like, we know it sucks. We've been there too. We can see it. Like, but there's also fun in being here too. And I think a lot of the reason that you are here and your soul wanted to be here as you is to have fun, is to enjoy the good aspects of life and to have a balance between, learning things and doing things you don't want to do and just letting loose and having fun and not worrying too much about it. I think that they'd really like to see you experience life with less overthinking and less anxiety. And I know that that's easier said than done, right? It's not like you can just turn off anxiety always, but I think you're headed toward a place where you are going to feel less anxious and more internally peaceful, and that, the things that you do want to move toward, there's no hurry, there's no rush. It's totally okay to move slowly unless you feel like running towards something. And it's also positive to be objective about things. When you're finding yourself getting really emotional about something, slowing down and finding kind of an objective stance will help you and help your relationships too. But the thing is that you're a really lovely person. And I think some of you haven't fully come around to how lovely you really are, or you base certain other people's opinions of you. What was I going to say? Basically, I think sometimes you take other people's opinions too seriously. And when someone says something negative about you, you internalize that, when really what you should be paying more attention to is the people that really love you and what they think of you. Because I think sometimes not everyone sees you clearly, but the people close to you, the people that love you, are the ones who see you the most clearly, even if it's not fully clear. You know what I mean? So I'm going to leave it there, group 3. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this reading or you found it helpful, please let me know by liking the video. Leave a comment if you're up for it. I'm sending you love, and I'll see you again soon. Okay? Bye.